The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come, and the years draw near when you will say, I have no delight in them. Before the sun and the light, and the moon and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. In the day that the watchmen of the house tremble, and the mighty men stoop, the grinding ones stand idle, because they are few. And those who look through the windows grow dim, and the doors on the streets are shut as the sound of the grinding mill is low. And one will arise at the sound of the bird, and all the daughters of the song will sing softly. Furthermore, men are afraid of a high place and of terrors on the road. The almond trees blossoms, the grasshopper drags himself along, and the copperberry is ineffective. For man goes to his eternal home, while mourners go about in the street. Remember him before the silver cord is broken, and the golden bowl is crushed. The pitcher by the well is shattered, and the wheel at the cistern is crushed. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God whom gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity.
Let us hear the conclusion of the motto. Life is unpredictable, but Ecclesiastes reminds us to live with wisdom, faith, and purpose. In chapters 11 and 12, we are challenged to embrace life boldly, invest in what matters, and remember our Creator before our days fade. Join us as we unpack these final words of wisdom, because in the end, everything points back to God. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, so welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast, here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay.
Earl Roberts, and we are joined by our esteemed guest, the guy who's appeared on this podcast the most than anybody else, top contender, Mr. Dominic McFall.
Hello, and one more time for the people. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So Dominic, how you been, man? How you been?
Look here, I've been trying to stay blessed and highly favored since the last time I saw y'all. I just been here.
And how that going for you? You succeeding or?
Man, that's to be determined. I tell you that. But I tried.
Yeah, understandable.
Oh boy, so this man is trying. That's what's up. Glad to have you on the podcast as always. I know it's going to be an exciting and riveting conversation. So guys, should we even do Psalms or Proverbs? We just jump into it, or should we talk about one of the conversations we had before the pod and bring it on pod? How do you feel it?
Because we have a guest, I'll go with that last option. But I will tell you, bro, I think we look for any reason to not
Stop it.
To not do
Stop
Psalms.
it. Because when you say it out loud, you make it sound like we avoiding it.
We ain't avoiding it, but it's just more convenient.
But you know,
to not do it. Yeah.
I can tell you what I am avoiding in my mind. I was still trying to think about how we could tackle it. The next book that followed this one.
Songs of Songs, right?
Big man. Anyway.
Let me ask Dom this question, bro. Would you consider Songs of Songs, aka Songs of Solomon, a secular book?
If it wasn't in the Bible, because the default response is always be in the Bible, it gotta be religious. But if it was not in the Bible and someone handed you this book and say, read it, what would you think it is?
Contextually, it's like, for the time, the book kind of spicy. You understand what I'm saying?
Muy caliente.
So I ain't sure. Ain't nothing else in the Bible that really got that same kind of flame.
Right,
If you understand
consistently
what I
true.
say.
Yeah.
So
Because
I don't know.
it's interesting, bro. These things, like, it's, you can see a bride and a groom in it. It's probably was used to be recited at weddings, ceremonies, and stuff like that. And it's a song and a poem, recited. Obviously, taking place in the confines of marriage. You know what I mean? Serious courtship, which is a holy thing in and
Mm.
of itself, right? Which
Mhm.
a lot of people, they express these type of language to be inappropriate, but it's not inappropriate when it's in the confines of marriage. It's actually ordained by God, it's blessed by God, and it's supported, which is why it's in the Bible, right? But it's
Mhm.
so interesting because you have certain books that have evidence of God without directly showing God. But I was having this conversation with somebody a few months ago, and I asked if I was to put out uh, a album just talking about my wife, and we're not condoning anything that's unbiblical, right? But it's talking about love, and it's an adult level album, not PG-13 type situation, right? Like, it's like
Mhm.
mature themes we talking about. Would that you think that could be received as a Christian album or a secular album? You know?
Yeah, I think, and here's another thing, because I thinking now about the person who delivering it too. You understand
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Because I could remember growing up, we had I don't know if you're anyway. I could remember like certain pastors back home,
Hmm.
and they ain't afraid to say
To talk about sex, right?
yeah, to say, oh, this is what it is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it's just like, if it ain't like the concept of these things are inherently like inappropriate. And like you're saying, if it's within the confines of marriage, is absolutely acceptable. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think everything is context, man.
Yeah.
I honestly gotta read like during the, well, obviously upcoming week. I gotta like do more research because I honestly never read this. Me just being fully transparent. I never read Songs of Solomon's with the anticipation of getting anything from the book.
Well,
Mm.
let me give you an excerpt right now then. Just for you.
Go.
The book start off, bro. Let him
I know
kiss
how the
me
book
with the
started.
kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Because of your fragrance, because of the fragrance of your ointment, your name is ointment poured forth. Therefore the virgins love you. Draw me away. That's the first
Oh,
four, the
man.
first four
Because
verses.
see, here's the thing, right? Because we know growing up in school in the Bahamas, right? We all had the little red children's Bible, right? So Songs of Solomon always used to be the key book. I'm saying you go to the book, oh, they talking about kissing type thing,
Mhm.
right? This in the Bible, right? But like, so like growing up, I wouldn't say I started that same mentality, but I was like, man, this is the playful book, bro.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I never read that book with the intention to just getting anything from it. Bro. You don't hear people even quote Songs of Solomon in church, bro. Songs of Song in church, whatever title you want to call it, right? I never heard no one read from this book in church.
It was meant to
Not
be read on your wedding night.
not from a script, not not
This
for a
ain't a church
scripture
book, my
reading,
brother.
not not from a sermon. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, so like,
Yeah.
I personally have never read the book with the intention of receiving anything from this book. So I think like this week, I actually got to read it to actually like read it in the context of seeing like what this book really trying to say. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think it's really just a celebration of your partner and their bodies, bro. Like, that's what the text. The last time I read it, that's what I got from it.
And we know
I heard a
Solomon.
past,
Solomon know all about that.
bro. Solomon actually had, if because some people don't believe Solomon actually wrote this, but if he did, Solomon actually had a Israelite woman. This that's the most astounding thing to me in this whole book, bro. Because like
I
from
mean,
the
statistically speaking, I would have been surprised if he didn't.
yeah,
Let's
that's
be
Mercy,
true.
real.
That's
mercy,
true. But we
mercy,
know for a fact that
Mercy.
he was of the he like different persuasions, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had an Egyptian, he had a Moabite, he had this and that, and all of them got houses.
So, Cos, in the Bali, your favorite characters who begin with S. Who was the waste one?
Well, when you grab me around me next time I see him. Oh no, is she who I was picking on at that time? She said, "Oh, that was David at the time." She didn't ask me, but oh, see, this is the thing. Samson fun to pick on. He's very fun to pick on. You catch what I'm saying? But Solomon, to me, it almost ain't even a laughing like the stuff he do is laughable, right? But it almost ain't a laughing matter how he was carrying on, bro. You see what I'm saying? Because the very few texts we know about him, right? You had one good text, and then like the last text we read about him, if not the second to last in the book of Kings, it was like, yeah, they was building idols. You see what I'm saying? They was he was multiplying gold. You see what I'm saying? He was selling horses. He said helping people go back to Egypt. He was brokering deal with the Egyptians. All of these things that God say not to do. Right? The very next generation after Solomon, utterly destroyed, bro. I think in a lot of ways Solomon reign was good because of the blessings that come down from David. You see what I'm saying? But Solomon in of himself, like the things that he do, he was good in terms of like the economy of them, but you had a lot of idol worshiping, a lot of idolatry, like, it was unprovoked idolatry. We can't put that on Samson. You catch what I'm saying? Samson, he was them type of people. His sins was like between him and one other person type of, you know what I mean? Like, he ain't really influencing other people, to my knowledge, to fall short. But Solomon, he's introducing all type of pagan worship in Israel during the time when they was primed, they was locked in with God, and so, but Solomon, he just was a freak boy. You get, no, I mean, Samson. Oh, two of them, really. The question is, who was the freakiest? That's the real question out of that, bro.
I have to give it to the one who had 900.
Yeah, but
I think Samson's only problem is he is a simp. You know what I mean?
Could be that might be better. I only say that because I know one of his ladies was a lady of the night for sure. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, but but because it ain't the numbers. It's just he want what he want.
Samson loves hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wanted a wife, and then he was willing to kill everybody when he didn't get a wife. And then he wanted Delilah. So Samson, he's a hard lover. He weigh hard on his sleeve.
I think you're very empathetic on Samson.
I still say the man is a simp, but that's
Hey, Samson had his flaws. Don't get me wrong now.
Semantics.
Don't get me wrong. All right, so we could do the Trinity conversation. We could do the lukewarm conversation. We could do just anything else in between. So which one y'all want to do?
I personally don't want to do Trinity at this moment.
Perfect. I don't blame you. All right, so let's kick it off. So what in your guys' opinion, what does it mean to be like a lukewarm Christian? Just keeping it general for right now. Don't all speak at once.
without going to just being what would you call it, like 2,000-foot view of things. To me, being lukewarm is as simple as if you have a knowledge and an understanding of something, if you know something to be true, especially theologically or biblically speaking, and you choose not to do that thing, you would be lukewarm in the context of the Bible.
And sorry, I should have set the premise. So just for the context, for the biblical context, right? So from a Revelation 3 verse 14, thanks. To the angel of the church of Laodicea write, these are the words of the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither hot or cold or hot. I wish you were either one to the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, for you can become rich, and white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes, so you can see.
So yeah, bro, even if you read the context of Revelation 3,
Mm-hmm.
they talk about it, but it start off they talking about the church that's completely dead. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Then we go on to the church that's a faithful church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, we go to the lukewarm church. So in the context of this chapter, we have what I would say a hot. I mean, well, I guess cold would be the dead church. We have a cold, a hot, and then the one in between. You catch what I'm saying? So basically, lukewarm in this context is just depending on it. It speaks to your faithfulness to God, right? You proclaim to be Christian. You know better, but your actions do not reflect. But you do not. But you keep proclaiming to be this thing. You know what I mean? It's like you saying I'm a Christian, but you just inactive. You know, you ain't pay your dues this month. You ain't, you know what I mean? But you rapping, but you don't show no fruits of this thing. To me, that's lukewarm because God can't do anything with you. That's why God said, "I will spit you out. I wish you was hot or cold." Imagine water, right? Let's say when you drink water, you like cold water, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
drink tea, you like hot tea. Somebody give you lukewarm tea or lukewarm water. It's like, bro, this ain't ideal, bro. I really wish not to do anything with this. Either I can make this hot and put some tea in it, or I can make this cold and drink it as water type situation. But what you give me is unserviceable to me. And so now the text go on to say, like, we refine you like gold. You know, they mention like white garments, these things to signify purification, you know, just actually cleansing you of your sins and helping you to actually pick the side that is the righteous side. So to me, lukewarm is any Christian that professes to be Christian, that knows Christ, but does not live life like that. And several reasons why you might not live it. You might be a lazy Christian. You know what I mean? You might not want to give up the things that you love, but then you might actually be willfully ignorant, meaning that you know the wages of sin is death, but you believe in your heart that, oh, I don't have to work hard or I don't have to work, period, to go to heaven. I'm just a Christian and that's good enough, you know? And that's actually not good enough. You need to be hot for God, basically, you know. You'll know them by their fruits. That's something that Jesus said.
Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of boils down to some like the indifferences that you would have against to God, right? Like you, to your point, neither hot or cold, right? But like when you become indifferent to things that you know that you should be standing for, like the inaction, theological things, like someone going to rob a bank and you telling them, "Hey, no." Well, hey, yeah, go do what you got to do, bro. I ain't got nothing to say on that. Like you know, there's something wrong. Like to calling, like not calling out the injustices you see in the world as well. So I think lukewarm is again, it's like Christian in name only. That's essentially what it starts boiling down to. Christian in name only. You ain't doing nothing to say that to show that you're a Christian, but you're calling yourself a Christian.
And just kind of to even expand on that a little bit more, I think that once we if we want to boil it down even further is how what it's like what is your relationship status with Jesus? You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
are you actually having that relationship with God, or you just trying to pretend like, oh, just for I just got we Facebook official, but we ain't really saying nothing. You know what I mean?
Facebook
It's
official.
complicated.
It's com- it's complicated.
But that status was diabolical to this
I'm
day.
telling you, bro.
To this day. You tell people just looking for attention back in the day, bro.
Real
What
talk.
that even mean to put that on? Anyway, I get sidetracked just now. But that's a fair point though. Like that's definitely a fair point. Like what like because here's the thing, right? Because if you solid with God, you should be able to be confident in the things that are for Him, right? And it's interesting, man. Because like it's easy to come to the pressures of the world too, but then hey, that makes you lukewarm. So Yeah, it's a nuanced. Well, it ain't even a nuanced conversation. It's either you hot, cold, or lukewarm.
Yeah,
And
I
it's,
think
and
I
the
think they
second,
was
go
trying
for
to
it.
eliminate nuance, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, there's no nuance really. You hot,
Yeah.
cold, or you lukewarm. And if you cold, we could work on you. If you hot, you good. That's good. But if you lukewarm, the problem is you lying to yourself. So it's like you
Mhm.
really being like the people who know everything. You know what I'm saying? You go to them. Oh, I already know that. All right, then. So why you ain't doing it then? Because
That's true.
I can't tell you nothing because you know everything. So if you know everything, you should be doing better. So clearly something missing. But I
Something
can't
is
help you because
lacking.
you can't help yourself right now because you already know it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so y'all want to hit the book of Ecclesiastes?
Yes, sir. Little inside joke.
Oh my. I
Wow.
had to do it for the one time. I had to
One time
do
for
it
the
for
one
the
time.
one time. It kind of rolls off the tongue, actually.
It actually is a little easier to say than the way we say it, though.
Honestly,
I mean,
like,
the way we
like
say it is natural because we've been saying it our whole lives.
I wanted to be mad at them, but that feels so good coming off of my tongue just now. I was like,
Yeah.
I see why they do it.
Yeah,
Like
that,
we was
I-
overcomplicate the matter, actually.
yeah, dog.
I can make sure a specific country listen to this podcast.
Hey, shout out. You know, I understand where y'all coming from. Let's just say that. I
Right.
understand. I may not fully agree, but you know, just saying it just now, I could see why y'all landed on this, and I ain't mad at it.
Right, man.
Oh, I just realized it's coming out on Valentine's Day. That's crazy.
Well, you celebrate them pagan. I'm just playing. I trying to have no fun.
Whoa, buddy,
I
you
trying to
want to
have no
start
fun.
this? So it's celebrating Valentine's Day. A
Wow.
pagan. I mean, or does it make you lukewarm? Right? No, let's start this conversation, right? So like, oh, we ain't get touch Christmas. We just beat up Christmas a lot, right? But like these other
Right.
ones, right? Who is Saint Valentine's?
Bro,
See,
it's a lot of. Go on.
Go on.
No, go on. Go on. No, go on. You. After you.
See, let me put it this way, because I want to get into all the backgrounds and things, but at the end of the day, I think we need to understand kind of the context of what it is that we celebrating, and we
Mhm.
have to have that conviction in ourselves through our relationship with Jesus. You know what I mean?
But
So if we
suppose
come
your
to
conviction wrong and you leading others astray.
see, but
I
here's
know.
the thing,
I will admit this is. I am moving the goalpost and I am changing the conversation. I am fully admitting that.
because
But what's your perspective on that?
my perspective is if
Cause
I
he
have
laughing.
if I have a relationship with Jesus, right?
Mhm.
And I doing my best in that relationship with Jesus to understand the words that are coming to me, whether it's through the Bible itself, whether it's through wise counsel, or whether it's through some other form of communication that God has with me, right?
Mhm.
If I am doing my best to have that relationship and to keep that form of communication going, and I come to a conclusion that is incorrect, I believe that even if I am incorrect, there's room for mercy.
Okay.
You understand? So if I am incorrect and I leading others astray, where the issue comes in is when I am not able to listen and to
Mm.
receive,
That
you
was gonna
know,
be my follow-up question. You're beating me to
yeah.
it.
And
He
so
sensed it coming.
we so I could arrive at a conclusion, and I could be preaching, bad theology, but once I get that right theology, once I get that, and I know that it's right just from hearing it, like that first time I hear it, I get that, you know what I mean? I know something right about what he's saying, then I should be able to take that in. And again, like I always say, line upon line and precept upon precept, whatever it is that I am hearing and learning,
20 minutes in, there it
I
is.
need to be able to back it up with whatever the Bible is saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I just think in general, stand on your convictions. Right or wrong, stand on your convictions. And the reason I say that is because, bro, if you convicted and you right, God is pleased. You see what he's saying? Because you listening to him, right?
Mhm.
If you convicted and you wrong, to me, you double wrong. Because one, something was placed in your heart and you going against that. That's number one, right? So you was just being a rebel, right? That's number one. And number two, you had to been either biased or you could have participated in being wrong, of in a wrongful conviction. That's what I'd say. But sometimes you truly deceived, right? But if you know something is wrong or you know something is right, you should do that thing. You should follow that conviction. I ain't saying follow your heart. This ain't no Disney movie type vibe. You know what I mean?
No, do
But
not follow your heart.
Sometimes, bro,
Your heart will lead you astray.
your heart is
Your heart's
deceitful.
sinful.
Yeah. Sometimes though, it don't be a matter of Bible or no Bible where you convicted to do or not to do something. You get what I saying? You might have said, you might have a colleague at work that did something that was problematic, and you say, yo, this wrong. This could cause a lot of problems. Don't do that no more. And when you leave that conversation, you might really feel convicted that, Maro, I might have laid on too strong type vibe. You ain't wrong in what you did, bro. Like, you ain't wrong in the message, but the packaging could have been a little better. You say, which is why you convicted. Or, excuse me, you could be convicted in that same way because you just a tender-hearted person and you don't like to be firm and push back against people. So you feel bad no matter what. And when you talk it over with someone, they like, nah, you do the right thing. You're supposed to actually push back. You know what I mean? So it's like, you should just hold on, like follow your conviction.
I do think that that's a different conversation though, because what I thinking about is whether or not, like, if you say oh, that's wrong, if you dealing with your coworker and you say, oh, that's wrong, don't do that no more, but there was actually nothing wrong with what that coworker did, and you stand on the fact that you saying that that's wrong, even though that, to me, that's standing on convictions that's wrong. You get what I'm saying? But I'm really talking about the delivery of it. I'm talking about the actual the content, you know? So if I have this content, and that content should be what I standing on, the delivery I could work on and I could tweak as I grow older and I grow more mature in my understanding of that content. But the content itself should be more or less set, but it should be set based off of that relationship, that wise counsel, that, you know what I mean? That these are the things that should be forming up our understanding and our and how we view things.
Yeah, I just think it is more important on how you land on this conviction. You see what I'm saying? What is it
Agreed.
backed by? Is just a mod? Is this just how you feel? You get what I'm saying? Is it just your
Absolutely.
feelings? You know, or is this something that is based on something? And what is it based on? Is it based on tradition? Is it based on cultural, reference? What is it truly based on? You know, but I do think though, bro. Like, I think about Martin Luther, right? Where he going against Rome, bro. He going against Rome, and he's like, "But this wrong, dog." And it's like, "No, this ain't wrong. This right. This right. This right." And he said, "But dog, I could be real with you. Even if this right, but I can't go against my convictions, bro. Like, God convict me that this is wrong, bro. But like, statistically speaking, how practical or how probable is it that he was right and millions of people wrong, bro? Like, to me, it's just so unlikely, bro, that you was the only right person around. You know what I mean? And so if he had allowed their theology or every reason they gave him to tell him why he was wrong, if he had allowed that to say, hey, I convicted on this thing, but I probably wrong and I pushed and I could just stand down, then we probably would have been, God wouldn't have been using him.
But the thing about Martin Luther is Martin Luther had a leg to stand on, because every one of his theses, he had it. He was coming at this from a biblical point of view. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why, even though I might say, like you would still have wise counsel and everything still boils down to, it needs to be biblically based. Like, if you don't have the Bible, what are you like? If you don't have that as your basis, everything you're doing is just acting how you feel.
So when is the line drawn when two people arguing from the Bible on their convictions and they arguing two separate parts? Now, I know we could have the precept upon precept discussion, right? But then what happens then? Because we both can't be right, or are we both right?
If we have two credible people that's arguing from a place, and when I use arguing loosely, but I really
Yeah.
mean this debating, but from a place of love. It you like you, our job is not to convince anybody, right? But rather
Mhm.
to profess the gospel, right? To preach the truth. If Dom say this and he say this truth, here's the reasoning from the Bible, and I say something completely opposite that is truth from the Bible, it's likely one of us just flat out lying, right? But at the end of the day, our responsibility is to outline these things and let people decide based on that, and let people decide by doing
Mhm.
their own studying. You catch what I'm saying? And you come up with your own answer, because truly, Dom might read this and God might have touched him in this way. I might read this and God might touch me in another way, or I might just be blinded, any combination of the things. But if I feel like this is the truth and I preaching on it, I think that's the right thing to do. Even if you have wrong theology, bro, like Paul, right? It weird, bro. Because God used him. God chose him as a servant, bro. God tell Ananias, bro, hey, go, this my servant Paul. Give him the sight, right? Restore his sight. But Ananias like, bro, Paul, I hear but him. He is be sanctioning people to get stoned, and he's be beating people XYZ. But God called him his servant. God ain't require Paul to say, "Hey, no, but you got to do some time." You see, they saying you gotta publicly recant in order to be used. God understand his zeal, but he was just misinformed, or he just was blind, like spiritually. You get what I saying? But God see that he was actually being zealous for him, and that's why Paul could have been used. He just needed an encounter with God, you know. So sometimes we could be truthful, and we could be serious stewards, but still be wrong. And that's why it's a journey. Like, it's a lot of room for us to go. I don't think anybody knows everything in the Bible. I don't think our human brains are even capable of just having everything completely right about the Bible. That's where God and His wisdom come in. You know.
And I think you make a good point there, because there are things that we can sit down and we can talk about and we can have discussions over, arguments, even if it get heated. But the question at the end of the day is this going to prevent me from getting into heaven? You know what I mean? And if the answer to that is no, then we could it really don't. And I want to be careful when I say this, but it don't matter in terms of, if we have to, like, argue almost semantics at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I think as long as we come into, first of all, the understanding that, we basing all of our understanding on the word of God, and then from there we building up our arguments, or our thesis, our theology from there, but it's all based on on biblical context. We could have discord, and we could discuss, and we could trade and figure things out together as we go. But it don't have to be a situation where I have to stand on, you know oh, the Bible say in the beginning, but in the beginning was in the beginning, not in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that.
In
Something like
a
that
beginning.
is
Yeah.
yeah. Something like that ain't gonna be the difference between heaven and hell for me.
Right. And I do want to say though, there are a lot of debates that are debating salvific. I know y'all like when I use
Salvific.
that word, but salvific qualities they debating. You
Agreed.
know.
Hmm.
And that's what I was going to
Hmm.
get at too, because of like you still got to be mindful of where that line is drawn, because and it's a slippery slope. And I know you ain't going there, Dom, but it's a slippery slope in the Christian community where like that line being drawn is either in the sand or is kind of hard to place, right?
Mhm.
Because what you might say is not salvific, other people are going to say the Sabbath ain't salvific. You know what I'm saying?
Facts, bro. I
And
think
and
a lot of people would agree with that.
and this where it starts getting like it becomes like a leaning onto your own understanding, because now we're trying to say what is and is not salvific. And that ain't a debate I really want to have tonight. But I'm just saying, like, you got to be mindful when we start saying stuff like that, because other people start expanding that more than we intended to be expanded.
Well, let me put it into context what I trying to get
And
at,
again,
right?
I ain't attacking you.
No,
I just talking for the
no,
audience perspective, you know?
no, I understand, but like, for the audience, let me make sure I explain myself thoroughly. You know, I believe that once we start building our theology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, you know, there are things that there are arguments that may or may not be salvific. That I'm not saying that for us to be the arbiters of what it is and is not salvific. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is
You're on a roll
we
tonight.
we gotta start off on a basis, and our basis can't be other people. Our basis can't be our own understanding. Our basis have to be in God, and
Mhm.
God has to be the one who has to make that conviction in us. God has to be. And if I could even be a little bit more specific, through the Holy Spirit, we get these convictions. You know what I mean? And is through that we get this level of understanding. And if we don't have that conviction from if that still small voice in the back of your head in, you know, kicking off like, oh, you know, that this is wrong, that is right, or something like that, and you have that relationship with God, in my opinion, you should be okay. But that's I ain't telling nobody that, you know, this, like, any one thing is or is not,
Yeah,
what's the
no,
word,
no,
salvific.
salvific, yeah. No, and I get you, and I didn't think that's what you were saying, but you know, there will be times when the things debated is in fact that, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
sin in general to me, anytime we arguing over whether something is a sin or not, to me that's salvific because if you telling me that lying ain't a sin, right? If you say, oh, bearing false witness is the sin, not lying, you look at the Ten Commandments, right? And we having a serious debate on this, right? To me, that implies that you are okay with lying, you condone lying, and you lie. You catch what I'm saying? Like you just straight up lie, you
You
know,
are, in
and we
fact, a
is
liar.
right, and but there's text in the Bible that let us know that these type of practices you ain't getting you into heaven. You know what I mean? Or lying lips, that's an abomination to God. You know what I mean? And so I think that's an easy one to say whether it's a salvific issue. But even that's a debate because some people believe that once you believe in God and Jesus, that he died for your sins, that's it. You catch what I'm saying?
Signed,
All the
sealed,
sin don't
delivered.
matter, right? It's almost like they saying like, and people use this analogy, right? Like Jesus paid for all the sins. Like he already paid for every sin. You know what I mean? It's like when you come. It's like when you go to the drive-in, right? And you want to say, hey, this $100. Pay for the next five people behind you, right? And the person ordering, they ain't even know you pay for it. But no matter what they order, there's no consequence because the bill is already covered type situation, you know? That's how people look at it like, bro, you could sin all you want, though. You can sin all you want. You shouldn't, but you could. And that has no effect. But anyway, I'm trying to harp on this conversation. I have a feeling that, you know, people who have this belief, they might, if they listen, they might think I have like a shtick when it comes to that. But I actually just really just disagree with that. And that's something I willing to, you know, always talk about because there's too many evidence in the Bible that says that proves that the wages of sin is death. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Agreed. So now we are going to get into the book of Ecclesiastes, however is your preferred way of pronouncing the name of this book. You know, there are many ways apparently, and apparently we do it wrong, apparently we do it right. Just depends on who you asking.
It,
But so in today's episode, we are going to be in chapter 11 and
mhm.
12 because 11 is pretty short, and you know it's just a good way to round out the book, especially when we have a guest. So it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah. So if you didn't tune in last time,
Go
we
for it.
covered chapter 10. And you know, there's some we had a point in time where Solomon he given a good bit instructions, but you know, he ain't really, you know, there's sections of this book where he's like hey, I saw this. This is vanity X Y Z. But now he just dropping gems. It's almost like the book of Proverbs. He started off talking about how dead perfumes putrefy the perfumer's ointment. How dead flies, I'm sorry, putrefy the perfumer's ointment and cause it to give off a foul odor. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honor. We see Solomon talking about wisdom and the reputation you could have and how foolishness can tarnish that reputation. He goes on to talk about how wise people talk, the way that their words are gracious, you know what I'm saying? But the fool, their words are pretty much the opposite of that. Even when a fool walks in a straight path, he doing everything right. Sooner or later, he's going to expose that he's a fool, These are some of the sentiments that we learned from Solomon. And the chapter ends, very interesting story where he says that he saw no, I guess that was the chapter before, but he ends this chapter by saying that do not, like, basically do not curse the king even in your thought, do not curse the rich
Yeah.
even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice and a bird in flight may
Might
tell the
tell the
matter.
motto. Mercy.
Just being wise, even in your thoughts, bro. Don't make a habit of certain things, and don't ever get too comfortable to challenge authority, even when they ain't around, bro. You just don't know how things are going to travel, and I think that's a word of wisdom, even though it seems a little bit fairy tale-ish. Oh, a little birdie's gonna fly it. How is that gonna happen? But the truth of the matter is, you can't, like in content, people can't clip up what you don't say. You know what I'm saying? If you don't practice certain habits, people won't be able to use it against you. So it's just wise to just to play it safe.
I mean, just to butt in right there. That's even a sentiment that's carried out to today, because people say, like, walls thin, these walls got ears. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a new concept even to today's listeners. So that's that's just wise words.
Yeah, very true, bro. And that's what I love about these books, because these are things where it's like, if you take it and really apply it to your life, you could spare yourself a lot of time and embarrassment. Yeah, gems.
All right, let's do it. So chapter 11, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. If a tree falls in the south or the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it shall lie. He who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the clouds will not reap. Guys, got any thoughts on that so far?
I mean, the one that's like, yeah, I think that's very impactful to me is the first verse. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. And I should have probably researched what that analogy even means. Like, I get the me, I get what it's conveying, right? But I'll just speak to that. It's like saying keep your options. Basically, keep your options open. You see what I'm saying? So that you have many just different ways that you can reap. And I'm talking specifically probably monetarily investing. You know what I'm saying? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think that's the easiest way to say that. Because after many days, you will find it. Give a servant to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. So it's like, if all your eggs in one basket, if something bad happened to the basket, then you out of luck. You know what I mean? But if you had other contingencies in place, then you could be good in a rainy day or when something unfortunate happens.
I think there's also a line that's connecting the first group and the second group of a text. Yeah, like the first two texts and the first two verses and the second two verses. So in the first two, I feel like it's not just saying that, keeping your eggs, keeping your options open. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. But in general, it's saying, like, be proactive. in the things
Mm.
that you're doing. You know what I mean? And it's the same sentiment that's repeated in the second two verses. So it's like, if the clouds are full of water, they pour. And I reading from the New International Version here. If the clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. And this verse 4 is really what I feel is that connecting. Whoever
Mm-hmm.
watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. You have to be proactive. If you just
Mm.
standing there looking at the clouds and twiddling your thumbs, ain't nothing
Mercy.
gonna happen for you. You understand what I'm saying? So actually, send your ships out. Do something and put your money into 7 different things, even 8 different things, because something gonna come back to you.
Something can fall. Something can
Something
shake.
can
Yeah.
fall. Something can
Yeah.
shake out.
And I like what you say in verse 4, because it says, "He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap." It's like you might be looking at one and not considering the other. You see what I'm saying? But if you study, bro, like if you do your due diligence, bro, you will know how to act and how to move. And that's just pure wisdom right there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
And in my job, we got this thing. It's a phenomenon called analysis paralysis. You understand what I'm saying? You could
Mm-hmm.
sit down all day and look at numbers and try it, but you will not be able to come to a decision just by staring at a screen and looking at numbers all day. At some point, you have to do something, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think that's a similar sentiment to what's going on here.
Facts.
Cool.
Facts. I think it's about trusting God at the end of the day too.
Hmm.
Like when you get so caught up in your actual circumstances, you lose that element of trust. You lose that element of faith. Like when Peter was walking, when Peter was walking on water, and then got distracted by the waves and the storm around him, and took his eyes off Jesus. Right? Like sometimes we get so fixated on, oh man, it's going to be a bad harvest, and not really trusting God to bring us through. You know what I'm saying? Getting to Dom's point, analysis paralysis, scared to make the decision. To Cassie's point, you have all this information, you need to do this research, but you ain't want to pull the trigger. Like at a certain point, you got to just take that step out in faith. You know what I'm saying? Like God already tell us he's going to provide for us, but how are I going to provide if you ain't even giving me a chance to provide? You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we it's so funny, right? Like sometimes we play it so safe just because we want to do the safe thing. But when God is calling us to act in faith, and that's a little bit riskier thing, and that's the thing that's probably more scary. I mean, we think about it, like you think Abraham was super not afraid to leave Ur. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my family. This is all the people I grew up with. These are all the people I know. And you go into a place where you're going to show me. You weren't even telling me you taking me to Canaan. You're just telling me I go into a place where you're going to show me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
frightening, but that takes a step of faith. So, yeah, man, sometimes in life we think the safest play. Sometimes the safest play is not the faithful play. And I think that's something even I got to keep in mind. So,
Yeah, and even just kind of going back to this concept of line upon line, we see we see back in Genesis, right, where after the fall, after the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, God told Adam specifically, by the sweat of your brow you will eat. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not that you can sit down and just kind of you know wait on food to automatically fly into your mouth. You have to actually do the work. And I think that's just what this is saying.
all right. So now verse 5. As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. All that is coming is vanity.
Mercy.
Vanity.
Boy, that's something, bro. But let them not forget the days of darkness, for they will be many. That's something, boy. That's something, bro. Like, I feel like You know, a lot of times we don't really emphasize how practical it is or how probable it is to have dark days. You know, you want to focus on the good. You know, greater is coming. You know, you want to affirm yourself and all that. But the reality is, you know, in life we're going to have many dark days, bro. And he ain't even say like, oh, to the poor you're gonna have many, or to the rich, or to whatever. You know, just in life there are going to be many dark days. You know, and don't lose sight of that, because that's where you can really be blindsided, and you can really be it could really compound the feeling of what you're going through, because you just live in a world where, oh, nothing bad could happen, you know.
No, I definitely think like, and it's funny, right? Because if just going back through this whole book, right? We all know how it started. Everything is vanity, and all of his experiments, his under the sun premise, right? So it's so interesting that life under the sun. But he's saying this life under the sun, man. Even though we under the sun, there are very many dark days.
Mm.
There are very many dark days, and for they will be many, and all that is coming is vanity. And it's just an interesting perspective. But you got to take the bad with the good. Like, even everybody in the Bible who had a narrative written about them, they all had some they all had some low point. We could start from Adam and Eve. We know what their big low point was. We ain't even get to that one, right? But you go through Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. Well, Joseph come before, but you get the idea. Like, all of these people had a low point. They had dark days. I'm sure Joseph had many dark days. We know Joseph more so from being enslaved than we know this man as a free man. You know what I'm saying? So like, this man whole life some could surmise was darkness until he was like 40. You know what I'm saying? Like that's pretty that's a lot of dark days. You in prison wondering if God forget about you. You ain't do nothing wrong. Why I here? I don't interpret this butler dream. This butler ain't even the butler and the baker, they don't forget about me. Like, what's going on? But yeah, man, like it's a humbling fact to just remember. And I think, like, go for it, Dominic. Go for it. No, go for it.
Sorry.
Nope.
I just thinking about, how we coming from, do the things, invest in this, put your money aside. So that all that you could so that you could reap whatever you could reap. But then, it turns around and says, the dark day is coming and everything is vanity. You know what I mean? It's interesting how you can have such a dichotomy.
Okay.
But
Dichotomy.
Okay, we ain't had that one yet tonight.
But it's interesting how you can have these two opposing views, but still have them, make sense and gel in such a way, because it's not like anything that he's saying in these last 4 or 5 verses that we've been talking about is in opposition really with the first 4 verses. You know what I mean?
Right, but look at what he's saying though, right? He say, so he basically talking about, yeah, you invest, you get your food, your grain, whatever, and it work out, right? Truly, the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun, right? So that's the metaphor for all things good. But if a man lives long enough, and you rejoice every day, remember now, every day ain't gonna be light. You get what I said? Like, so.
Right.
And you can see this is a man full of very sobering thoughts. A few chapters back, he had me and Earl debating whether it is better to be in the house of laughter or the house of mourning, right? It seemed like you could ask anybody who, like, let's say, anybody who never read this book, which one is better? I think the consensus would say laughter. The house of laughter. Laughter is a good medicine. That's what we say. But he like, bro, you don't think intuitively under them circumstances. It's easy for foolishness to creep in under them circumstances. So he all about, bro, put wisdom first. if you have to be in a bad situation to think wisely straight through, I'd rather you be in that type situation, type vibe. But even yeah, you like, bro, the good is good. Is wise with your wisdom, you could make life better for you. But don't let that fool you into thinking life always good. And I think that's wise, whereas everybody should be mindful of.
All right, let's do this. So now, verse 9: rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer for you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart, and in the sight of your eyes. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these God will bring you to judgment. Therefore, remove sorrow from your heart and put away evil from your flesh. For childhood and youth are vanity. So then let's keep going. Remember now you're created in the days of your youth. Typical part of the verse we always is here.
Mm-hmm.
Before the difficult days come and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. No one has ever really finished that part of the voice. While the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men bow down, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look through the windows grow dim, and the doors are shut in the streets, and the sound of grinding is low, when one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of the music are brought low. Also, they are afraid of height, and the terrors in the way. When the almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper is a burden, and desire fails. For man goes to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Remember your Creator before the silver cord is loosed, or the gold bowl is broken, or the pitcher shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the well. The dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit of God and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. All is vanity. And here ends the words of the preacher in this book.
This text, my mom we used to have a competition. Number one, when we was elementary school, maybe middle school, who could memorize I can't remember how far it was, but all this stuff like I could just think of this like I could kind of quote it, I can't remember which version, probably KJV, but this one and though I speak with the tongue of men and of angels and have not love, those two texts, my mom was really like adamant, and it's so funny because I just wonder, it's so many texts to choose in the Bible, but these are two that she really stood on, especially for young people, right? Saying, bro, remember God when you young, bro. You just think about it, right? Like it's so much naivety. How you ever pronounce that? We is huff when we young, right?
Say it
because,
right. Dom smirking gets us the next one added to the list, but we can let it slide. Keep going.
Hey, I in the mood now. I gotta try. I gotta try pull out some more of these vocabulary words, right?
Oh boy.
So
let me go find my thesaurus.
It's incomprehensible to I'm just playing, but but yeah, bro, like when you're so naive as children, you're just oblivious, to how dark the world could really be, bro. And it's so funny because like somebody who might be thinking, bro, what we mean, but like how dark it is. But the fact that when you're a child, bro, you have a lot of people are blessed to be in this position where they have parents, especially two parents there, right? To take care of your needs, right? To take care of your shelter, your food, X, Y, Z, right? You might get into a fight or something at school, but you relatively safe. When we was growing up, you was relatively safe, just on average, right? But when you get in the real world, right? Bro, can't park your car a certain place, someone breaking your car, someone steal your car. You gotta have home security, hoping nobody come in your house in the middle of the night, try rob. But it was a time when people was coming in our neighborhood and they wasn't breaking in cars, but they was looking for anybody whose car was unlocked. You see what I saying? And by several times I just leave my car unlocked. Now mind you, I don't keep nothing in my car. Thank God. You see what I'm saying? But if I did, let's say I go to the gym, put my wallet in the glove compartment, for when I come back and forget it there, well, it gone. You know what I mean? Like certain times, but somebody could really get over on you. You could be in a tragic accident. You could experience grief. But it's so many things in life, bro, that can have you spiraling. That really, it's like it's hard to, excuse me, it's hard to fully to deal with on an everyday basis. You might just be depressed. Your career might not be going the way you want it to go. As kids, boy, your biggest issue is what you wearing on dress up day, or you know what I mean, or can I get the new game or the new shoes or whatever. But the problems you have, they are minuscule. And they one week there's a problem, the next week it ain't no problem. You see what I saying? Some people, they got court cases, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they freedom taken away from, but it's a lot of dark days you could experience in life, bro. Some people get framed, you know what I mean? Some people falsely accused, but like, there's plenty things in life that can really bring you, it could just be dark for you, for lack of better words. But before it come to that, it's better to have develop a relationship with God. You see what I'm saying? One, because you have someone to turn to when you in these things. You have someone that can actually catch you out of these things. You know what I mean? But also, when you're going through these things, if you don't know God, you probably don't have faith, right? And this can really shatter your faith. I remember it was this girl in the 10th grade. She was from one of the out islands. You know, in the Bahamas, every school basically is a Christian school, even if it's a public school, right? We can have devotion before class. You know, we might have a religious knowledge class, whatever. The gal was like, I don't believe in God. First person I ever meet say that. And I was very uncomfortable being around her. Like, I wasn't mature enough to say, but I could just be around people who saying they don't believe in God. You know, ask her why. Her daddy passed away from cancer, I think. She prayed to God, save my daddy. And it didn't happen. Thus, God must be fake. You catch what I'm saying? The evil days, the dark days come for her early. We was in grade 10. You see what I'm saying? She wasn't grounded enough in her faith to withstand something like that, you know? Which is why it's important to actually have a foundation with God beforehand, because it's things in life that will happen, bro. The Christian, but we learned by Solomon just was talking about this a couple chapters back. Death can happen, whether you rich or poor, whether you righteous, whether you unrighteous, but it's certain things that just happen in life for real. You see what I'm saying? But you know, it's important to have this foundation beforehand so that it won't be shattered when these days actually come.
Dom, you got anything on that?
I just thinking because and I thinking about the person when I was in high school. I used to do karate, and the dojo that I would go to, my instructor, she had a relationship with Ranfully Home, right? And so some of the and for those who don't know, the Ranfully Home for Children back home, that's the orphanage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When children don't have any parents, when they become wards of the state or whatever the case is, that's where they end up until they get permanent placement. And so my instructor used to basically open the doors for anybody who wanted to come in. And so as I started to advance and started teaching that, those were the children who I was interacting with. You know what I mean? And I just thinking about it, like, you have some people who, and I guess this is more of a question that I trying to struggle with as we have this conversation. You have so many. It's not a negligible amount of people who don't have that opportunity to have that grounding in their youth. You know what I mean? And they have to. And so what? How does this verse kind of work in the context of the person who has dark days from the beginning? You get what I'm saying?
I think this more so to somebody that's aware of God from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
because the dark days will come. You see what I'm saying? And I'll be honest with you, bro. Like even people in unideal situations, right?
Hmm.
They still have light. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're young, you kind of don't understand how hard of a situation you're actually in, bro. Like some people, they just go. I ain't trying to speak for no one. I ain't trying to minimize nobody's experience. But sometimes people go through life, right? And when they become an adult, you realize, bro, that was not a good situation we was in. Like, but I talk to people, bro. They was homeless, bro, right? They ain't even know how hard they parents were struggling. They just know they had to sleep in a car. They had to shower at the YMCA or whatever. Growing, but because they were so young, they don't really realize. Like they don't really
That's normal
realize.
to them.
Right, it's normal, but like they don't really realize the true pressure of it. Like you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the true darkness of it. And I go to the naive aspect of it. But like you say, bro, like there are people in life, bro, who have the cards they was dealt, bro, is like they dealt a bad hand from early, you know. But I think if we generalize, we know that throughout life, you could have start off with that with bad days. You also will have good days, right?
Hmm.
But no matter how
Hmm.
you start, you definitely have bad days. And I think that's what he more so speaking to. Throughout your life, whether you start good or bad, them bad days coming down the line, regardless, bro. Them bad days could actually be a catalyst to even worse days. But even if you start off in good days, you still could have bad days. You know what I mean? So he was just speaking to, bro, there's a fact these days can come. Hopefully it don't come early. But like that's why it's important to build your relationship with God. Um, from very young so that you could have a ground to stand on even if your life is full of dark days. That's my
Yeah, but
assumption.
I think that this is important to note that even if you don't have that, or if you haven't had that ability to have that relationship from when you were very young, it's still important to note that your relationship with God is still like a like a child growing up. You know what I mean? So it's like you, even though you might not be young in in age, you might be young in faith. So you still, as you learning more about God and you growing in your relationship with God, I think it's also important just throughout the whole process of your relationship, I guess, status, that you keep your eyes on God throughout, you know?
Hmm.
Agreed. Agreed. It's an interesting conversation, and I'm glad you two had input on that because I was just, sitting back and listening. I love sometimes just gotta sit back and listen. Um, so reading verse 9. And so just for like the audience perspective now, when you get to this point in Ecclesiastes, the author of the book is the preacher's no longer talking. This is someone who actually compiled the book, and they're just summing up the book in this conclusion. So you're actually hearing a different pen, if you were to call it that. And so verse 9, and moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find acceptable words, and what was written was upright, words of truth. The words of the wise were like goads. The words of the scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. And further, my son, be admonished by these, of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. So let's hear the conclusion of the whole motto. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, every secret thing, whether good or evil. And that is how this guy is
I,
summed up.
I
I
didn't
think,
know that this part wasn't.
yeah, no, this part is a different part of Ecclesiastes, because again, and this is where it's getting interesting, right? Like the book of Ecclesiastes, because if you go back to Ecclesiastes 1, the preacher starts talking, right? But the preacher is conducting this experiment again under the premise or under the sun. And so now you have these brief mentions of God and the creator, right? But all of his perspective is still living this life outside the
Right.
sun and showing that it's all vanity, right? So
Mhm.
like let's go like we get to the end of the book now, so we can recap the whole thing in its entirety, right? But this guy, what did he do? First, he tried to do What his knowledge and wise experiment, he couldn't find fulfillment there. This guy was left with more questions than he had. So he ended up saying, bro, an increase in knowledge is much sorrow. Vanity of vanities. Then this guy say, you know what? Forget this wisdom thing. Let me try the pleasure route.
Yeah.
All right. This guy literally said everything that he wanted, he did not deny himself.
Nope.
He overindulged in all the pleasures, right? That couldn't do it for him, bro. You know what I'm saying? This ain't even permanent no more. All right. Vanity of vanities. I can't do the pleasure thing. All right. Let's try. You want to say something to say?
No.
Oh, my bad. Then he say, all right, this pleasure thing ain't wake out. Let me try, build some stuff and accomplish some stuff. Look at my gardens. Look at my house. Look at all of this. My boy say, you know what? All these accomplishments have no meaning. They is vanity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then here's the thing, right? The book of Ecclesiastes is so interesting, right? Because again, he's saying life on earth, how I take it now, life on earth without God has no meaning. It is vanity. Because at the end of the day, most of his conclusions was, bro, under the sun, the only thing you can try to do is try to make the best for yourself, enjoy your food, enjoy your wine, enjoy some of your works, but that's all you got. Because at the end of the day, you're going to die and all this is nothing.
But that's,
I lie, Kazi.
You won't lie, bro. That's what make it so sad because, bro, I thought Solomon gone through all this and then he conclude, by cheapest you hold firm to God. You say they saying that's the only thing. But to me, I reading this a whole lot different if he never come to that conclusion, whether even if he did in his personal life, right? It seems like the person who write this now understood Solomon, understood his lifestyle and his habits and the wisdom, which is truth, right? And says, hey, like how they say the wise man learn from other people's mistake, right? That's what the end of this book sound like to me. He
The
said,
true
hey,
wise man.
after you hear all what he do, with all what
Exactly.
Solomon do, I letting you know, cheapest, let me just break it down to you. Cheapest, you hold firm to God, bro, because you ain't want to lose yourself chasing all this other stuff that don't have no meaning, that is equal to vanity. You know what I mean?
The only thing this chapter missing is a word to the wise is sufficient.
Real dog. And I sure they say that in some type of way, maybe in this book. But I like what you was doing, Earl, like just going through the chapters. I'll tell you now, my favorite part of this book, for humor purposes, is chapter 2, verses.
That's when you say you gotta leave it to my son.
Yes, bro. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Excuse me. He got to talk. Hey, Dom, just for context, he got to talk about how he excel in everything. This was after he done talk about how he done do every pleasure, right? He said, but I excel at everything under the sun, bro. I build vineyards, I build houses, I gift them to people, but I do anything we're doing, I do it, bro. And even that was vanity to me, right? And then I start to get, he say, verse 12, he say, I turn myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can man do who succeeds the king? He's saying, bro, only what has already been done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly as light excels darkness. This, right? And then, not even the part where I trying to get to, bro. It's a part where he like, bro, I started, verse 18. Then I hate, after he say he done do every labor under the sun, bro. The man turned around and say, then I hated all my labor in which I had toil under the sun. Not because it didn't bring in fulfillment at the time, No, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. That's
Mercy.
pure hate. He said, I get mad at all the good stuff, but I kill this stuff on earth, bro. I was killing this earth thing, bro. Then I get mad I was killing so hard because I got someone who ain't put in on this got to benefit from this after me, bro.
Wow.
He said, bro, and who knows whether he will be a fool or wise. Like,
and his son surely wasn't the smartest apple on the tree.
He definitely wasn't. And he was justified in believing too. But man, that's one of the most notable ones for me, bro. Because your boy, he take us on this long journey saying, I do it all, man. I do this, I do that. But then I start to hate that I do all that because some idiot could benefit off me. And then you know what else? He have a portion in this book where he talk about he see fools in places of kings, and he
Mm-hmm.
see wise people on the street. So he feel he feel what's the word, complicit in that, because you have a son who's a fool who could be king one day, or he
Mercy.
could potentially he might be a fool and he will be the king one day. And so that's the thing that you load so much, you know. Chapter one, I'd say, with much wisdom come much sorrow. That
Mm-hmm.
was true to form, bro. Because the man, he pushed himself to enjoy a lot of stuff, and then he hate the fact that he was enjoying, and he hate everything he enjoyed because he don't want someone else to enjoy it who ain't earn it.
Mhm.
But if you wasn't thinking like that, you would have just been happy for your son. You know what I mean? Or you would have just tried to train him so that he could have the wisdom. I know, bro.
But
Oh
like,
man.
That's crazy.
but it's interesting, right? Because even in his experiments under the sun, this under the sun premise, life without God, he did come to some very wise conclusions. So and that's why the book of Ecclesiastes is such a peculiar one. It's such a peculiar one because even in his wisdom experiments, he still stumbled upon the judgment of God. You know, but it never really played a pivotal role in how he was living.
Yeah, that's true, but it's just pure observation.
Yeah, it's like, just from a, I don't want to say scientific perspective, but essentially what he was doing, experimentation.
Right.
At the very least, observational.
For sure. Because he breaking down so much stuff, bro. And what I do like, one thing I really do like about this book is that there's a few themes that he consistently tackled. One being injustices. He consistently threw out several chapters saying, bro, sometimes I see people who wicked, living long, getting rich, doing all type of things that seem like blessings. Just me paraphrasing. And he said that in multiple different forms. Sometimes I see the wicked living long lives, and I see the righteous people dying early. You know what I
Mercy.
mean? But like certain things that it's like it's a shame. And like and he would say, bro, these are great evils that I see. Like I see somebody get dead rich, bro. I see a man get rich and he ain't get to enjoy the labor because a foreigner come and take it. You get what I'm saying? Like, and I just like, bro, that's crazy. But like the things that he outlining, bro, like it's like to me, it's like real deep circumstances to be in life. Just for him to say, bro, but true, but none of this really mean anything. Like for
Hey,
real.
for real. Then even when he was saying that, hey, if you doing all this work and you ain't got no air, what you working this hard
What
for?
you work? I see everybody taking extra shifts. He ain't got no brother. He ain't got no son. What are you doing
What
all
you
this for?
what you doing this for? Be really big.
Right.
Don't make the man ask the question, why are you doing this? But he gets
Like he was
selfish
trying to
taught.
give
He said,
answers.
this makes no sense. He said, you ain't got no one to share in these life experiences with? Vanity.
Well, just enjoy your life, bro. Enjoy your
Oh my.
life.
I also did like chapter 3 when he was breaking down as a time for everything. Because I mean it's kind of reminds me of Galatians 6:9 when he's talking about like, it's a time to reap and do in due
Mhm.
season all things will come, and I butcher that text, right? But like, it's a time to it's he literally says a time for war. Let me go, which one that was? A time for war and a time for peace, a time to
Mhm.
kill and a time to heal. I was
Mhm.
like, so when we
What's the
killing,
time to kill? Like, let's get specific now. What time that is? Let me set my alarm.
hey, so I could I either can know if I could be out or if I could be inside.
Real dog. Real dog.
Oh my. So overall, like what's your overall thoughts on the book as an entire? And Dominic, I know you're just coming in for the end, so but just overall thoughts.
Right. My one thought that I feel like two things that I feel like should be highlighted, and it seems almost taboo, and it's like this don't pass the line upon line, precept upon precept law, right?
Dominic
But
ain't gonna like this.
no, he can like it, but it's just me taking things just in isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we read last chapter, Ecclesiastes
10.
10, right?
Yeah.
Where when he talk about money, I think it was toward the end of the chapter. Uh oh, right. verse 19. Ecclesiastes 10, verse 19. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, people really want to demonize money, right? But he's just coming out, just frankly, money. Say wine. I was gonna say wine answers everything.
Mercy.
Depending on who you ask, right? But the text says money answers everything. Now, obviously, we ain't talking spiritual things because obviously you can't buy salvation or whatever, right? But it's like when you have more money, you have more options. So it's not to be confused with loving money, because in this same book, he talk about those who are addicted to increase are never satisfied. You can stay up late at night. You rich, bro, but you don't get no sleep. You just thinking about tomorrow, expanding, expanding, expanding. You get consumed with that. Also vanity, right? But money does give you options. If you have money, you don't have to settle. You catch what I'm saying? This is the Bible talking. But when it says it answers everything. And another thing, I on the computer now. I don't really have my highlights, but just any one of them many texts where he say it's important to eat, drink, and enjoy the time with your one wife who you are every day of this vain life that you about to live. You see what I'm saying? To me, that might have been his conclusion of the matter. If the second boy didn't come in and summarize all these things. But that's also Bible to me. And from the wisest man to ever live, he says very early in this book that eating, drinking, and enjoying the work that you do is a gift from God. In the midst of everything that he was saying was vanity, he turned around and say, bro, having a fulfilling career, enjoying what you do, and reaping the fruits of your labor is a gift from God. And I think sometimes those two things we wanna push being set apart to the point where we we burden ourselves. The concept here being that the man who work all these different jobs, he worked himself to the bone, but he had no air. Why are you working so hard, right? Why are you being so uptight when you do not have to? It is a gift from God to enjoy life. Facts. But a lot of times as Christians, especially as conservative Christians, we don't push enjoying lives. As a matter of fact, we actually kind of speak against that because it's a slippery slope. You could definitely exploit that. You know what I mean? And you could actually lean more being into the world. But these two concepts, enjoying life and money answering everything, if done right and healthy, is a gift from God. You know what I mean? And it's something that just it's a wise thing to know and to apply.
I think what at least my impressions, from what I know and remember from the book as a whole, and what we just finished reading is, kind of taking what Kazi say, and also adding to this concept of balance, right? And this concept of, yes, you're gonna have your like these, like we read in the last in chapter 11, you're gonna have your good days, you're gonna have your bad days. You're gonna need to sow in the time of plenty, because we don't know when what's gonna happen in the times a little. You're gonna need to enjoy, when it's time to enjoy, and there's gonna be sorrow when there's time for sorrow. But at the end of the day, all of this thing is gonna be in balance with the concept of we have to do this true God. You know what I mean? So it's like this isn't something that we just coming out and, oh, I want to have, I want to have a work life balance because I want to have a work life balance. Like there's a purpose for it. You get what I'm saying? Like, and the purpose isn't, I don't think that in all of this, the purpose is simply just to enjoy life, because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I think we have to enjoy the gifts that God has given us today, but we still know that there's more to come. You get what I'm saying? I feel like what's happening here is what's happening on this earth is not something that we have to hold on to. Is it's not that thing that we are striving for, but it's something that we have and that we can appreciate. You get what I'm saying? And so because we have our family here, we have this job, we have, this house, we have this car, whatever. We can appreciate these things that we have, but these aren't we have more treasures that are going to be stored for us in heaven. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I feel about it. I also There was one thing, that as when we read, now that I was starting to talk, it coming back to my mind, in the last bit of chapter 12,
Mm-hmm.
where the person start summarizing things, and I try to find it um in chapter 12, verses
11.
basically where he was saying, doing the research will make your body weary. You know what I mean?
Well,
Many books like stud. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
word.
studying many books could could
Yeah.
could make your body weary. And even though I will always say line upon line and precept upon precept, what I do like about what he's saying here is, at the end of the day, we have to we
Of
have
course,
to
God.
fear God and keep his commandments. And all of the line upon line and precept upon precept, we could simplify it down just to that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So those was two different things that was on my mind just now, but that's all I get. That's where I was at.
that boy said I see 5 cents.
Hmm.
So for me, I think I could just take a slightly different angle to not beat the dead horse. But so for me, like like my takeaway from this is never take God out of the equation, right? Because when you take God out of the equation, you you experience a life without meaning. And that's easy to say because we just went through Ecclesiastes, but in its totality, right? Like me and Kazi was having this debate like 2 episodes ago, probably the episode that dropped tonight or the one that dropped 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, right? But like putting yourself in the perspective of someone who doesn't have God in the equation, it's kind of hard for us in our Christian view because we always have God in the equation. Was that luck or was that the Holy Spirit guiding you? Depends on your perspective. If you have Christ, you have if you believe in the God and you believe in the Holy Spirit, that's the Holy Spirit. But the outside person, something could happen to them, but that's just luck. That's just chance. You know what I'm saying? And to me, when you take God out of the equation, not only does life not have meaning, vanity in the words of this preacher, but you end up putting yourself in a predicament where you are leaning onto your own understanding a lot of times and coming up to conclusions that, whereas just like that same example, luck or the Holy Spirit, that are not actually completely true. You know what I'm saying? So in the book of Ecclesiastes, I'm not saying that it's not true, so don't misinterpret my words, right? But the context of the book could also be misconstrued because everyone reading could be reading with a false context. And so in today's life, when you take God out the equation, it's just such a complicated life. And to me, like, and I do like the person who summarized the book. Here's the conclusion of the whole model. You read this and you get left with questions like, sometimes some of these chapters you read in Ecclesiastes, you're like, is this good? Is this worldly? Is this holy? This seem a bit little little lukewarmy to me. You know what I'm saying? But it in the Bible. So what we're really trying to say, right? And I do like it, like fear God and keep his commandments, but this is man's all. And think about it. Think about what the book was saying a lot. Vanity of vanities. This, everything is nothing. But he's saying, bro, if you keep the commandments and you fear God, bro, that is all, bro. That is your completion. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't live a life where you're trying to not account for God. Don't live a life where you're trying not to have God in the picture. Because then you will live You will live a life full of vanity. You will live a life without meaning. You will live a life where you have way more questions than answers, and that really keeps you up at night. You will think you die and there's nothing going to happen. Like, at least we as Christians, we believe in the eternal life. We believe that we die and we're just going to be asleep, but we're going to one day, God's willing, raise and meet our Savior in the sky if we, don't live through the time of tribulation, right? But this makes life not meaningless for us. You know what I'm saying? Now, some of the promises in the book is still true and still very applicable. Like, what are you chasing these ambitions for? What are you not actually stopping and smelling the roses? There is a time for everything. Sometimes there's a time to sit back and mourn. These things are completely true, right? But we don't think that life does not have meaning, because we were created by a God who gave us all a purpose. We were created by a God who gave us all meaning. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there will be dark days. Yes, there will be days where we are downtrodden. But we do know that there's light at the end of this tunnel. We do know that there's a Savior who loves us. We do know that we can come and help our brothers and sisters. We do know that there is a life worth living. And, that's kind of what I get from the book. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think the book of Ecclesiastes is a good one. It's a good one to have the theological discussions with. It's a good one to actually ponder with. And it's a good one to actually see what he lived and get your conclusions from it and see how you want to apply that to your life. But the ending tells you all. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. This is man's completion. This is our purpose here on earth. This is what makes our lives not vanity.
Chapter 11 encourages boldness and diligence despite life's uncertainties. Here we learn the phrase, cast your bread upon the waters, which suggests that generosity and investment can lead to future reward. The chapter encourages us to be steadfast, wise, and diligent because misfortune may strike at any time. Then we conclude with chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes, which reminds us to remember our Creator before we get hit with life's tragedies and dark days. And finally, the book concludes by reminding us to fear God and keep his commandments, because this applies to every person. But join us next week as we start on the book of Isaiah on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.